Ask Reddit by Chief's Hat. Redditors who have dated celebrities, how'd it go? I dated an actor who played the lead in an Oscar-nominated movie. He was charming at first but turned out to be the most self-centered and insecure person I've known. He needed constant attention and praise. He would call me at least 5 times a day to talk about himself. He constantly wanted me to confirm his dick was huge, it wasn't, complained about not having a prettier face, tore himself down as an actor but got angry if I didn't contradict him etc. Utterly draining, like an energy vampire or something. I called it quits after 1 month. On another note, if you had to pick one Oscar-nominated movie to never watch, which would it be? R.J. Mitt, Walt Jr. from Breaking Bad, hit on my daughter at a poker tournament and bought her a drink. She had to gently tell him she was waiting for her hubby who was in the tournament. She said he was super nice and laid back. Lol. Dodged a bullet. Who'd want to be constantly eating breakfast? Once a day is enough for me. D-lister and most insecure and narcissistic person I know. I really did care about him but I couldn't handle the lack of accountability and them always having to be right or the center of attention. Too much. I will stick to my non-celebs. Sounds exactly like the D-lister I came to post. Was their claim to fame being a man vs food? Agree with all these things and also found out he was sleeping with his stepsister through the COVID lockdown because it was a confusing time. Yuck. It was surreal with very little private time for him to be himself. I knew him from high school before fame so he liked being himself around me. Ultimately, he became very controlling, no one tells them no, and upset so would drop my life for his. The social and financial power imbalance is always present. Yep, just commented something similar. It's not as fantastic or easy as most would like to believe it is, that's for sure. I dated a Hollywood actor. He took me to a Hollywood party, where all the other celebrities were. He left with a Hollywood actress. I met enough celebrities that night not to care, although I do like to say they all got to meet me. Did get invited to more Hollywood parties and was blown away that it was all the same people at every single party. I've noticed that too. I was in the orbit of some seriously successful LA people at one point, briefly, and the party circuit had the exact same crew at every one. The non-famous part of the crew are the gatekeepers and very tough customers. My mom dated the guy who invented Crazy Bones. I had all of the original ones. We used to go to schools and do demonstrations. Back then he struggled but eventually after my mom broke up with him his company blew up and was bigger than Pogs. No way. Sometimes I feel like I swap timelines because no one else seems to remember Crazy Bones. Glad to know I'm not untethered from reality. Sorry the Crazy Bone guy isn't your stepdad. He was a D-lister, very charismatic, handsome but he wasn't getting much work so he was bitter and amp. He knew how much I was into him. So much so I gave him money to help with bills etc. I was fucking stupid. He used me and amp. Now he's back in the circuit with a new young woman doing all the things he promised to do with me. So I guess I'm better now but the experience helped me learn to be tougher. He may be doing well but he's always going to be a nasty person on the inside and amp. Karma will get him. Deleted. I dated, and am still close friends with, a retired model. In his early career, he was a model for A and amp. F was on the bags, huge posters in the stores, the whole early 2000s shebang. He's real nice to look at, especially now in his 30s. He's such a lamb, the sweetest man on the planet, thinks the best of others, genuinely kind-hearted, and he is completely ignorant to being fawned over. He just thinks all people are really nice. He gets hit on left and right and doesn't even clock it. My theory is that he's one of those rare people who has been attractive since birth, so he doesn't even realize he's playing on God mode instead of hard mode like the rest of us. We didn't make it as partners long term because massaging his ego is a full-time job. He's cripplingly insecure, needs a constant cheerleader to amp him up and compliment his appearance, workout etc. As his bestie, and occasional FWB when we are in the same city, I can bust his balls and tell him about himself in a way he would never be able to handle from a romantic partner. Far superior, I'd say. So he is John Hamm from 30 Rock lol. My mom's cousin married an NFL player. We visited when they lived in Colorado, not anymore, and he was a hella nice dude. Their kids are beautiful. It's been nice to see them grow up thanks to Facebook. About 8 years ago, I met Corey Feldman at a Comic-Con. He proceeded to ask me out. I respectfully declined. Then he tried to get me to go to a haunted house with him. I'm much younger than he is, haha. My parents say I could have been with a D-list celebrity every time we watch a movie he was in. Hey, I'm going to see him play a show next week. My buddies and I are surprising our most unhinged friend with a meet and greet with Corey himself. Just to see what happens. I went on a date with a well-known actor's daughter, who had done some roles herself. We hung out a few times casually, but through our chats it was apparent that she was growing more interested, so I asked her out. It went well and we went to a jazz club and bar with more drinks after, got up to the point of holding hands. As I drove her back to her place hoping it was going to go where it goes, she gave me the talk. She said she was interested but it wasn't a good time in her life to be dating as she was trying to find a career outside of acting and outside her father's shadow. Ended with a simple peck on the cheek. The sad part was that I was supposed to originally pick her up at her dad's house and she was going to introduce me to him, which I was super excited about. But she was running late, so I picked her up from her apartment instead. We stayed friends for a bit after and she asked me to help her move to new house, but never set a date for that, and that was pretty much the last time we spoke other than an email for her new acting classes. I dated a fairly famous female heavy metal musician for a while. The long distance constant travel thing ended up being very much not for me, so we ended things. Edit. Jesus, I did not think this would get that much attention. No, I will not say who she was, LMAO. That sounds like fun. Dating and touring at the same time is almost impossible. Were you a big fan of metal? Not me, but a co-worker's sister-in-law. She hooked up with TJ Miller in the late zeros before he hit Hollywood and was still a traveling stand-up comic. My co-worker, his wife, and sister-in-law all went to a comedy show where TJ hooked up with the Sil, and they all went back to their house to presumably drink and hang, where he spent the night. In the morning they found the front door open and the cookies the wife had cooked the night before were gone. He wouldn't shut up about it for years until he finally saw the guy and realized it was the same person. TLDR, TJ Miller is an alleged cookie thief. TJ Miller stealing cookies was not what I expected when I posted this question. I met Hugh Jackman on the streets of New York, drinking a pilsner out of a paper bag and eating a slice of pizza. I was on my way to see the Violent Femme at Roseland Ballroom. I totally asked him to come with me. He said no, but I took it as a win. It's not every day you get to ask out Hugh Jackman. Edited to at, I was the one drinking beer and eating pizza. Hugh was just out for a stroll. And it was the last show ever at the Roseland Ballroom. Kudos for asking in the first place. He was an NHL player. We dated for about 8 months and actually were engaged. I broke it off and give back the ring when I realized being a hockey wife would make me go insane in the long run. My cousin played in NHL for 11 years. Married his high school girlfriend, brunette, which is very rare for hockey wives. Didn't drink alcohol. Somehow was well liked on his teams. My friend's friend hooked up with John Mayer after one of his concerts in his tour bus. She said he was a horn dog and was into butt sex. I read a story on Reddit years ago about someone that hooked up with John Mayer. She got naked. He went in the bathroom and jerked off while looking at her. Then he pulled up his pants and left. My friend almost dated Marissa Tomei. Apparently she has a thing for balding men. You have my attention. I sat next to Natalie Portman on a plane once. We talked all about designer handbags, and then were there for each other through some bad turbulence. She was already taken, and I'm gay, but it was still a relationship I'll never forget. I opened a gate for her in a dog run once. She was super grateful and asked me if I was an actor. I said no. Never dated, but once had dinner with Nichelle Nichols. She was the most amazing person I ever met. Full of great stories and would sing at the drop of a hat. She was a true American treasure. I met her twice. She was very elegant. A little diva-ish, but she earned it. Well, he wasn't a celebrity when I dated him. I got pregnant and he was just talking to somebody about moving to the West Coast and playing in their band. He didn't want me to have a kid, but I did anyway and told him I wouldn't bother him. I knew it would screw him up because almost 30 years ago they would make guys get a job and working gigs playing guitar wasn't going to cut it. So I never went for child support and we only rarely spoke after that. Child turned 15 I think and something went on with my husband and I had to file child support for the first time. That's when I found out that he was a full-blown rock star. He pulled the whole "that's not my kid" thing. We got the DNA test, 100% you are the father. Kid got to know him in between his concert tours. He's definitely a different person now and I'm kind of glad I didn't know that person way back when. Not exactly what you asked, but that's my celebrity story. That's so cool. Every story I read I'm like, dang, I wish I knew who they were discussing. Lol. I hope he's a good role model. Had a scene partner from Mexico in an acting class in LA. Developed a crush and asked her out. She said yes. Learned she had 2 million Instagram followers and was very famous in Mexico. Halfway through our first date, she got a text and asked me if I wanted to go with her to a party with the daughter of the president of Mexico. Was a very surreal evening. We're still friends. Once I found myself in one of those one-seater restrooms in a Starbucks in Manhattan right in front of the ABC studios. I think it was like 74th Street and Columbus. Anyway, I had run in because I had to take a giant shit and it took a couple of minutes to get it all, but it ended up to be a big mountainous triple flusher and it was rank. By the time I got out there was a line for the restroom and Rosie O'Donnell was in the front of the line. I smiled at her because I recognized her and she smiled back, I think. Then she went in there. This isn't at all like dating a celebrity, but it's a pretty intimate experience, I think. Deleted. I dated a male model who did runway and photo for Ralph Lauren and Calvin Klein. Does that count? He was super pretty and absolutely zero chemistry. He went on to be in a HGTV show. Was this during his Blue Steel or Magnum phase? My cousin dated Josh Hartnett for a little bit during college. This was before he got his big break in Pearl Harbor and became famous. Eater. My cousin's a lot older than me, but from what she said he was a sweet guy. I think they met at her friend's high school reunion and hit it off. I am jealous of this one. Still crush on JH. My grandmother's ex-husband dated Marilyn Monroe. His family helped my great-great-grandparents escape from Germany at the start of World War II. That's cool AF. My wife was on Delicious Destinations. Does that count? She's my celebrity lol. Edit wife corrected me. Bizarre foods, delicious destinations. Didn't date but hooked up with Miley Cyrus after Lollapalooza. I was working one of those big ass beer tents at one of the many stages, had to stay late to clean after the show was over, and guess who comes over, after we stopped selling, to buy a drink. I offered to buy her one, just not at Lolla, and the rest is history, for me lol. I think sometimes celebs just want a random snog like the rest of us, or at least how I used to. Scared to admit this, but shared coke with and subsequently made out with Danny I. Minogue, sister of Kylie, at Gay Pride on Clapham Common in London. Coincidentally, my old boss dated Kylie before she made it big again. He didn't know who she was at a party and asked her out 2 dates and she said nah. Started getting recognized with her and separate from her. Felt like I had to look exceptional everywhere we went. Also had to mentally prepare for people recognizing us wherever we went. Thankfully, we started realizing a lot of it was self-imposed pressure and now we're just back to being normal. Still gotta read rooms though just so we're aware of how many people have spotted us and how they're reacting to it. Dated an actress for a while. Not a household name, but one of those oh yeah, I think I know her from X kinda people. Very respected and won some credible awards. Met a lot of her friends, many also I guess B-list actors similar to her, and one or two A-listers, whose names Reddit would know for sure. The main thing I found was her, and her friends, were all super insecure. I think it's just the nature of the work the industry that breeds that. Apart from that, was a pretty regular relationship. We broke up, largely due to her insecurities. She's married with a kid now, hope she's happy. Had dinner with Terry Hatcher when we were in our late 30s. Got a hug goodnight. That is all I have to report. Deleted. I dated a TikTok star for about 5 months last year. Can confirm most of the above was true for her too, as well as the other TikTok people she hung out with. Instead of sexting she would just send her own TikTok thirst traps from weeks or months ago, even had the TikTok logo on the videos. It was absolutely wild. It was fairly difficult. For us it was too much traveling on her obligation for work, me not being able to accompany her because of my obligation for work. She was faithful, she never cheated, but constant attempts from co-workers and others to get her. But she was in my opinion very respectful that way. For us through other issues not being able to do holidays or plan them, just normal things couples do. But it was otherwise a good relationship, we actually parted as friends. Stay in contact once in a while. After we dated I was married for 23 years and her and my wife we're friendly. Never disrespectful to our marriage, she ended up actually marrying and divorcing more than once. But she's been in a relationship for the last 12 years and happy. He's in the industry. And they're actually pretty famous couple, not superstars but definitely recognized. I once banged Eartha Kitt in an airplane bathroom. Damn it, Pierce. That's gross. In the middle of a divorce from a Hollywood D-lister who still gets recognized often for his roles in cult classic comedy films. I've always said he's sort of like the real life Wooderson from Dazed and Confused, in that he gets older, but his fans stay the same, college age. On and off 7 years. Currently in the off. She was a homebody so that was nice. Going out and her getting hit on constantly was a bit draining for us both. Liv Tyler and I were on the same plane once and stood somewhat close to each other in the baggage claim in Nice, France while we both waited for our luggage. It was amazing. Nice. He's done a lot of cool things in his career but isn't super well known, but I think most people in North America will know his face. We hooked up after one of his rap parties where I was bartending. He was super nice. Went out to 7/11 cause he didn't have condoms and his dog was super cute and chill. Was also sober and ordered me food, which was nice. We talked for months after and he tried to fly me out and wanted to take me on set and stuff, but I didn't really think he wanted anything serious, so I passed it up so I could spend time with a guy where I live. In hindsight, while it would have been cool to go to LA, I'm still with the guy I ditched him for 6 years later and am madly in love, and he's married with a kid now. It's a good story and I have so much respect for his talent and career and even him as a person cause he treated me so well, but I think we would have been way. One of my best friends dates and married into a wealthy famous foreign family. Luckily, he was also famous for a time. He's controlling himself but he married the one woman who can out control him and tell him what to do, and it made him a much better man. He needed someone more dominant than him. Funny how that works. They have a great marriage. Slept a few times with a famous porn star. It was just like sex with a normal person, aside from her massive jugs. A tale as old as time. That Veronica Vaughn is one piece of ace, I know from experience, dude. No you don't. Friend's mom dated Tony Hawk back in the day. She apparently barely ever saw him. A little too committed to the sport. Quite a few years ago I dated a has-been from the 80s. There was some fun times, but really I probably am just extremely lucky I didn't get some VD from all the other people he was seeing and dating and screwing at the same time. I'm almost ashamed to admit it, cause that man was a hoe bag. He wasn't a celebrity per se, but he was a producer of a very famous movie. He is, by far, the most charismatic man I've ever met. Extremely intelligent and interesting through and through. But he was more sex focused early on than I was comfortable with, and he got me a really expensive gift within a month of talking and 2 dates. I let it fizzle out because it was a lot more than I was ready to take on at that time. I was working for a record company and dated a woman who had a hit record at the time. She was batshit crazy, but a nice person. Everything was fine until the fame died down and she had to be normal again. She couldn't quite get used to not being in hotels and planes and having people scream her name, which was weird because she didn't really like those things to start with. One day as I was getting ready for work I asked her if she could drop something off at the post office for me, and when I came home that night she was gone. Man, Susan Boyle ghosted you. Sorry bro. I was pretty good friends with someone who had been in a long-term relationship with an NFL player. You'd know his name. He was a good dude and very generous to her, but their lives were just going in very different directions. It ended as well as anything ends. She has lots of good things to say about him but doesn't regret her decision to leave. I dated a closeted rapper. He was an asshole and threatened to kill me if I ever told anyone. My cousin dated an A-list actress for 2 years. She broke it off when he proposed. He's successful in business so it's not like he needs her money or anything, although she has 100x more than him. He's really guarded with information about her, probably so one of his idiot cousins doesn't go blabbing on the internet about her business. Haha. But he did say she was incredibly insecure and super controlling about his life and who he was with, but at the same time wouldn't be completely transparent about who she was with. I think he's happier dating non-celebrities now. Not sure how we are defining celebrities, but I dated a woman who was big on YouTube social media, then moved to more traditional media, Disney sitcoms, but in their home country. They were from Europe, not the US. We dated in college in the US and it went well, but we were both young and a bit wild. The biggest thing was how wealthy their family was, like they had a monthly allowance that was over a few $1,000s. It makes sense to me they ended up getting pretty famous. I feel like having that kind of money, and if you are interested creative, the deck is stacked in your favor. It ended pretty poorly for many reasons, but immaturity and our different backgrounds chiefly among them. Talked to them years later after they were pretty big and laughed about how dumb we were. I dated, and am still friends with, a musician who is fairly famous, and is one of the biggest names in their subgenre. Honestly, it was mostly normal. The hardest part was dealing with them being away so often and for such long amounts of time, but then when they were around they'd often be back without many obligations for many months, so it balanced out. The nicest part was that I got to do quite a lot of traveling with them, and also met some really cool, and even more famous than they are, people through networking events and collaborations. I also got some cool presents, which I guess technically count as memorabilia, but I don't see them that way. John Philip Sousa? I dated a Kathy Ireland poster back in the 90s when I was 11. I think someone threw it away eventually for obvious reasons.